Welcome to another episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast. We got a great episode in store for you today. We're going to talk about what happened in the AFC and NFC championship games. We're also going to talk about the craziness of the coaching carousel. There's still two positions left. We'll tell you our thoughts on who's being hired and what our thoughts are on the Super Bowl. So don't go anywhere. But for now, we got our host, Rob, along with myself, Drew. Rob, say hi to the people.
Hey, regresado a Mexico, my friends and fans out there. We're so excited to have you as we head into the last game of the season. 2 weeks away. It's always the longest 2 weeks of the year, but we love it. Let's go.
Yeah, Rob is back down in Mexico now. For those of you following along with the endless saga of Rob traveling, which is probably more exciting than this podcast in general, Rob has been traveling to and from Mexico, Africa, the United States, probably somewhere else that I don't even know he's been.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego has now become where in the world is Rob Cunningham, huh? Let's
exactly. Go. He just doxed himself, gave his last name. You can steal all his information now, everybody. No, you're good.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Who cares?
Who we are, first and last names, yeah.
Yeah.
Have fun checking down all my various bank accounts overseas. That's what you hired Drew for. That is what you hired me for. By the way, as a random aside today, I actually got the COO of the company created an avatar for me to make us my new profile picture on the website, and it's me in a suit because I'm the finance guy, but I'm also dual wielding footballs. There you go. That's pretty strong, and that actually encapsulates a lot of your personality anyway.
It really does.
He's kind of dead on there. Good operations, man.
Exactly. Okay, well, we've had enough of the nice little preamble. Let's get into the main chunk of the video, and we're going to start with news and notes, and we're just going to start with a quick update on the coaching carousel. So we have Raheem Morris going to the Falcons, the DC of the Rams. We have Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. That happened just after we filmed, but before we released this episode last week. We have Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going to the Carolina Panthers, and we have the OC of the Bengals, Brian Callahan, going to the Titans. Rob, what are your thoughts on these hires? There's a lot of hires.
Yeah, we won't go too deep into this. I'm sure there's plenty of off-season time to do a little bit of a deeper dive. First off, the NFC South, have fun, guys. Whatever. Baker Mayfield got a guy a job over in Carolina. Have fun, NFC South. You'll still be the shit league next year, too. Sorry, shit division. Shout out Raheem Morris, who has had a very peculiar and bizarre career in the NFL. This is the guy that inherited the Tampa Bay Bucks team as the defensive coordinator when Gruden just stepped aside after the Super Bowl, was there for a year, and then just kind of was in various coordinator positions and won a ring for the Rams last year as their defensive coordinator. I don't even think had a job this year. And now all of a sudden is the head coach of the Falcons. So that was a very roundabout.
He was with the Rams.
Was he still in the Rams?
He was still with the Rams. Yeah.
So okay. I thought so. But anyways, it just shout out to him for being a reliable soldier in the league and finally finding a head coaching position almost 2 decades after his first one, which makes you think that maybe he's got something the second time around. Lastly, whatever, Harbaugh to the Chargers. I'm not as this. I mean, I'm sure it's just big news. It's like the Taylor Swift thing. Everyone wants to talk about it. I don't really care. Moving on. It's the Chargers, folks, of LA, not even San Diego.
Yeah, I think that'll work out. But as you said, we have enough time to get into that throughout the season. There are 2 jobs still left open, though. The Washington football team and the Seattle Seahawks. And we have a few coaches, big names still out there. We have Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel without jobs. And earlier today, Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator of the Lions, one of the hottest head coaching candidates last year and this year, removed himself for the second straight year from coaching consideration. Thoughts on those guys and who might be going to those jobs at all?
Yeah, I think Belichick's going to the booth. You'll see him on Fox Sports or ESPN pregame. I just think he takes a year off at this point, and I don't think another owner really wants to take a flyer on the personality cult that comes with that hire. I'd love to see Vrabel on the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's a good fit for him up in the Pacific Northwest. They're a good, hard-running team. They've had defense, has a legacy. I think Vrabel fits in well there, and can kind of nurture his culture and what he wants out there. And I think the ownership would give that to him. And the Washington football team, fuck it. Just hire whoever, Jeff Saturday again. I just have fun, guys. I'm taking your under next year.
I have Belichick. Belichick is Commanders or bust. I don't see him with the Seahawks, and he might be in the booth for a year, but I just can't see a world where Belichick doesn't get a job. That's unfathomable to me. I'm still thinking he'll wind up probably with the Manders. But either way, let's move on. And the big thing we're going to spend most of this episode talking about are the games. So let's start with the first game of Sunday, the AFC Championship. The Kansas City Chiefs win 17-10 against the Baltimore Ravens. Rob, walk me through your thoughts of that game.
I mean, it was Kansas City punching them in the mouth from the start, right out the gate, and Baltimore never really was able to get their feet in that game. They were just out-toughed by the defense. They were just out-Mahomed, out Lamar Jackson by Pat Mahomes, right? Who I think this team has a chip on their shoulder once again. They're similar to like the Warriors' last ring, where it's like everyone's already counted them out. They're underdogs on the road. They can't win on the road, and here they come, winning on the road, like vanquishing all of these storylines that have been media darlings all year long. Josh Allen and the comeback, and now Lamar Jackson. And they just made play after play. Kelsey showing up big after disappearing at the end of the season. The Chiefs look like the team to beat all of a sudden, and I'm pretty sure that they might be taking home another championship. They had everything right in this game. They had the right play calling in terms of just Andy Reid knowing to smash mouth football was going to win this game. And some of us in Steel Town kind of saw this coming because that team did lose to the Steelers twice. And if that's not a flag for you, I don't know what is this season.
I mean, in fairness, one of those losses was with their backups in Week 17. Come on now. But
anyways, what were your thoughts coming out the gate?
No, I mean, we talked about this last week in the episode. I picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game. The second I saw them play against the Bills, I said, oh shit. This team has come to play. The offense has picked it up. I saw it a little bit against the Dolphins, saw it against the Bills, and I said, if Pat Mahomes and this offense are working with how good the defense is playing this year, you cannot bet against the Kansas City Chiefs. You just can't do it. And they just showed up. And, I'm not going to knock Lamar. For the same reason I'm not going to knock Josh Allen. I think Lamar's still a great quarterback, but guess what? The Chiefs are a great defense this year. And, he did a lot that game. He made one mistake throwing that pick into triple coverage. Don't know what he was thinking on that one. That was a dumb play. Ugly. But, they only lost by a touchdown, and Flowers fumbled it on the half-yard line through the back of the end zone and turned the ball over. That's a massive game-shifting play. Who knows? Obviously, if the Chiefs are in a tie game, they might play the game differently. I'm not saying that the Ravens all of a sudden win this game or go tied, but, it's a game that had a few errors not gone against the Ravens. They could have made a game for it. I thought they were the better team in the second half, but they were just too far behind in the first half. Their offense didn't score points when they needed to in the second half, and for the, what is it now, fourth time in 5 years we have the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's getting annoying, right?
I think it is 4 times.
Villain. It is 4 out of the last 5. The one that didn't have it was the
Bengals,
Rams. Yes, the Bengals Rams last year.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Shit, Mahomes won. Yeah, Mahomes won it last year.
Yep.
Just to your point. This is entering early Pats, Belichick, Brady area type of a run, right? Making that many Super Bowls, winning that many, only losing to Brady himself, right? And so it's been a sight to behold for sure. And what's not this is a fun team to kind of love to hate right now. You got the whole Travis Kelsey and Tay Swift storyline. You have this like Mahomes is kind of like a brat all season long, and all of a sudden he's showing you, oh yeah, he is him. But I give a lot of credit to Andy Reid too. He has figured something out there, and they have guys stepping up. Shout out Marquez Balding-Scantling, who made a closing catch down the stretch on a nationally televised game.
One shout out, but like, dude, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, this guy was a scapegoat all season, and like their receiving core was scapegoated all year. They couldn't catch a ball, and like Rashee Rice has kind of like turned himself into a true receiver. Kelsey has recovered, but like you don't see Kadarius Toney, you don't see like McCole Hardman, but Marquez Valdez-Scantling has figured his shit out in the playoffs. Like he had a good game against Buffalo too.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch, and it's great to see these redemption stories as well. But that actually, I want to bring that up from the Baltimore side of the ball. Where were their playmakers, right? Outside of Zay Flowers, neither Andrews or Likely had that big of a game at the tight end position. They pretty much abandoned the run in the second half, which blew my mind because I think they could have run on that team. And when you take that play out of the playbook, now all of a sudden they can put spies on Lamar and they can short the routes that team runs, which is similar to how the Pittsburgh Steelers beat this team earlier in the year, as to Drew's comment. So that's what we need to see from Baltimore. And I agree. That's why I wouldn't put this all on Lamar's head. Although I'm sure there will be plenty of media talking heads busting his balls all offseason about how he can't win the big game. But where were their playmakers? Zay Flowers, for the mistakes that he made, he was showing up. He was emotional. He was making plays. It got the best of him in that last series there with the penalty and eventually the fumble. But at least he was there. They missed a lot of guys on that offensive side.
And the one thing I'll say, for everyone who wants to clown on Lamar, for everyone who wants to clown on Josh Allen, like any of these guys, because they can't win, it's like, okay, they are 27 years old right now. Michael Jordan didn't win his first NBA championship until 28 years old. Can you imagine the frenzy that would have gone around a guy like Michael Jordan, who was winning MVPs and scoring titles and dunk contests, but couldn't get past the Pistons and the Celtics? Like, my God. And then you compare that to Magic Johnson, who was 28 years old when he won his last of 5 NBA titles. Like, the team matters in sports, and that's a sport where the individual matters more than any other sport.
And not to mention, like, Kareem, who won one, when he was in his young 20s and early 40s, right? So It really does matter a lot. And I agree. I mean, that's why you make really good points about Josh Allen, too, where it's just like you can't fault these guys for the systems that they're in. Especially, Maurice Jones-Drew was having a really good debrief about Dan Campbell's locker room speech afterwards. And he was like, I made the playoffs my second year, never made it back to the playoffs. And Maurice Jones-Drew was a great running back, of course, UCLA guy. But that just goes to show you in football, especially, like it is so much more. It really is the 52 guys in the locker room, and if any individual circumstance is never really going to win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, good for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is great. It is extremely difficult to overcome a player that good and do it like consistently. So, don't hate on Lamar. Don't hate on Josh Allen too much. I know it's the popular thing. It's the fun thing to do right now. But I think we should all just appreciate the greatness of Mahomes, as annoying as Kansas City might be, more than we should say, well, because you can't beat Mahomes, you suck.
Right. Nobody was saying that about Manning when he kept losing to Brady. Right?
Exactly.
Everybody knew Manning was the shit, and eventually he got his, and eventually another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. And so, are we ready to? Okay,
yeah,
so one last.
One last thing on this game.
No. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it next week. I've already got you riled up. Let's go to the second game of the day. Yes, on Sunday, that was the NFC Conference Championship, which featured the San Francisco / Santa Clara 49ers against the Detroit Football Lions. Drew, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a Lions fan. Obviously it sucks to lose, especially when you have a 17-point lead going into halftime. But at the end of the day, I think most Lions fans are okay. It's like, we literally tripled our playoff wins in the Super Bowl era tripled in one postseason. We kind of showed everyone that, like, no, we're not just a nice preseason story. We're not just a decent regular season team. It's like, no, we are up there with the class of the NFC, and the Lions are a team that, like, they've been paying all their guys, like, their contracts. They haven't been pushing contracts down the road. A lot of their guys are on rookie deals. They have a ton of cap space. They're not losing anyone. Compare that to the 49ers, who are in cap hell starting next year. If as a Lions fan, I'm looking at it and saying, okay, I think we can beat the Cowboys. I think we can beat the Eagles. I think we can beat the Rams. I've seen that we should be able to beat a 49ers team, especially that probably just due to cap situations has to take a step back next year. We get to take a step forward. There's no reason we can't be the class of the NFC next year and moving on. This was house money. I'm fine.
Such a Detroit Lions fan response of you, and we'll get into why in a second, but you're not wrong. Goff is the oldest player on that team at 29. You had a lot of these players, Gibbs, Laporta, these are rookies. The NFC is not that deep anyways, and you have paper tigers like the Cowboys and the Eagles out there. So no doubt you guys are well positioned. You silenced a lot of haters. You went far in the postseason, farther than you should. But I just love how you so easily glanced over the fact that this was the most Detroit loss ever, right? The heartbreak, the kind of like taking you out for dinner, really whining and dining you with that 17-point burst in the first half, only giving up 3, and then to just crumble and fall apart in typical Lions fashion. That is the Detroit Lions that I love and have become so fond of over my lifetime, is this befuddling franchise, which is on the verge of no longer being there. So I'm glad we got to see one last classic Detroit Lion performance before they become these kings of the jungle that you profess.
See, the thing is, you're completely wrong, and the reason you're completely wrong is because when have the Lions ever been in a position to crash and burn from heights? Like no, we start crashing and burning and we keep going. This is completely different.
Again, spoken like a great Detroit Lions fan. You're really just happy to be here, aren't you?
We're so happy.
You've been there before. Act like you've been there before, huh, brother? But congratulations to your Lions. Let's talk a little bit of more X's and O's, starting with the miracle is really what you can call it, in the turning point in that game. The helmet catch redo. What do you think? Tell me your thoughts on that play.
I mean, that play, and this is why I also don't feel that bad about the game, is it's like there was some ridiculous comedy of errors that occurred, that being probably the biggest, most notable one, where it's like, okay, instead of getting a pick, it goes through our guy's hands, fine, okay, we don't get a pick, but it bounced off his helmet, 51-yard reception, like, because up until that point in time, like, let's understand this, they hadn't been able to do anything, really. Like, we had stymied their offense until they got that play. And it's why, like, that whole game, I actually was even late into the fourth quarter, even when we were down, I was feeling confident because I'm like, we're driving better than they are. We're hitting plays more than they are. It was just like, that's one of the things. And it's like, guess what? That happens. Like, we've seen that happen plenty of times. We've seen great teams just sometimes have those great breaks. And it often, to win, you got to be good, but you also got to be lucky. And they got a bit lucky, and, kudos. And kudos to Ayuk for staying with that ball. A lot of guys just give up on that play. Ayuk didn't, and, like, props.
Yeah. Opportunity rewards those that are well positioned and try hard, right? And so, you bring up a lot. One thing that I saw in the second half is, I don't know, the Detroit Lions offense sort of fizzled, and I think a lot of that had to do with the Niners defense stepped up. Bosa was playing really, really well, and they made a lot of stops when they needed them to, as well as those fortuitous things. But that fortuitous event happened because Purdy started throwing the ball down the field. He was taking deep shots and looking like something special there. And the NFL script writers in New York were they wrote this second half for the ages because you had the miracle, very like Brady Giants-esque or also like Brady Seahawks-esque, right? And Purdy being, how do you out Brady? You be the last pick and then do what he might be doing. And so what better way to do it than to come back from 17-3 against the frisky Lions to go up against none other than the current GOAT of the generation, Mahomes. And so, like, I'm a little torn, and we'll talk about the game in a second. It's like, do you ride the current GOAT, Mahomes, or do you say, nah, this Purdy guy's the next big thing and get the new GOAT on the way up? But we'll talk about that next. But yeah, I just want to compliment. Yeah, I just wanted to compliment Purdy starting to throw the ball downfield, taking chances, and putting them in a position to win that game, which is what they needed.
Yeah, we'll go into a lot of detail in the preview of that game, obviously next week, with there being a bye week in between. We're going to do a bit longer previews this episode, go into the full extent of that game, do it the justice it's deserved as the Super Bowl next week. But, to say about Purdy, I've liked Purdy all year. You know that. Like, that's why I picked the 49ers at the beginning of the year to win the Super Bowl. We've talked about that a lot, which is also why it's like, I'm not even that upset. It's like, I literally picked them to do this. Like, I literally picked it at the start of the season as high as I was on the line. So it's like, this just seemed like the answer always to me. But at the end of the day, I think the one thing I do want to talk about is a lot of people are getting on the Lions for the fourth down calls.
I was going to mention this next. Yep.
Okay,
yep,
so
especially
I'll let
that
you
last
start.
one.
I'll let you start.
So, I mean, I think, at the end of the half to kick the field goal was a smart idea. Take those points, get what's going to you. If they had
100%.
gone for it there, I would have been like, fuck. And I think they missed a 48-yarder at some point in the game too.
No,
right?
the 49ers missed a 48-yarder.
Right,
exactly.
yeah. So, but that goes to show you that, these things are not a gimme. And so in that last fourth, and I think it was a 2 when you guys went for it, when you were within field goal range, and I think you were down 10 at that point, I would have really kicked that field goal. I just, despite the fact that I know it's not a lock, as proven by the other Moody missing, but then this is your ethos. It's the boxer. You're not here if you don't have that attitude anyways. And so I'm conflicted, but I think Campbell made the right decision to forego his going for it on fourth down to kick the field goal at the end of the second quarter. I think he should have done the same thing in the fourth quarter and brought that within one score with that by kicking it.
So it would have tied the game, actually. They were down 3 at that point in time.
All right, yeah, exactly. Tie the game.
Now, here's what I'll say, and this is the thing with the Lions to understand, and I think this is a little bit Dan Campbell's ethos, but it's also Dan Campbell knowing his team. The Lions' kicking game is shit. And I think most of the league doesn't know that because they never see the Lions kick. But it's because the Lions' kicking game is shit. Michael Badgley, so the field goals, when they went for it on fourth down, the field goals would have been from about 43 and 48 yards respectively.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Michael Badgley, in his career, from 40 to 49 yards, 77%. That's it.
But what's the going for it chances?
Nope. I'm getting there.
Sorry, I'm too excited.
And the Detroit Lions went for it 88 times this year. They hit on 48 of those, so 55% chance. And inside 4th and 3, it was over 75% chance. So when you start to think about it like that, I'm like, was it a little bit more likely that you hit the field goal than you get the first down? Yes. But the upside value of hitting that first down overcomes and supersedes the little bit of benefit from kicking the field goal. I think that's the other thing to account for.
Well, then accounting for that, the counterpoint I would make is that there is a momentum swing that comes with tying the game and not having to be on your back foot and not having to be fighting as if you're like, from here on out, we have to score to win. If you tie the game, your defense comes in with a different mentality. Your offense is as well if they have to get back on the field. So it's just similar to, it's like a basketball shot. If you're tied and have to shoot for the game winner, it's much different than shooting when you're down 1 or 2, right? The stakes are a bit different.
but that was the 48-yarder. Michael Badgley from 48 yards is less than 50%. There was literally a better chance based on Badgley's career. And remember, Badgley's always kicked in a dome. This was outside too. So it's like it technically
factoring that in, it seems like the right call, especially given the ethos of Campbell, right? You got the two things that kind of make it seem like that.
He's gonna take.
And there was like enough time left.
Yeah. Like they lost. It sucks, but at the end of the day, it's like, I agree with both sides. It's like you play the way that got you there, which is playing aggressive, going for it. But you also understand, like, I would be more pissed if we had Justin Tucker, Jake Elliott, Harrison Butker, Brandon Aubrey as our kicker, and we didn't kick those field goals. Okay, in that situation, I'm kind of pissed. Because the first one would have extended it from a 14-point lead to a 17-point lead. 3-score game, that's valuable. The second one ties the game, that's valuable. This one was, but like, this is a situation where it's like, we don't have those guys. You know, what works for us, we have an extremely good and efficient offense, and we've been very effective on fourth down. We have terrible kicking game, and we know that the 49ers offense, especially on the second one, is starting to roll. We can't let them maintain the upper hand in this game, having that possession advantage. We need to pull it back. Like, there are people that are literally saying, I'm on Detroit Lions fan bases. There are people that are literally saying, Ben Johnson is staying because they're going to fire Dan Campbell for his calls. And I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Twitter GMs, sometimes you just got to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, if they go for the field goal and he misses a 48-yarder, then everyone's like, why didn't you go for it like every other time you do? You know, why switch it up now just because it's in this, you know. So it's lose-lose for Dan Campbell in that situation. Shout out to your coordinator for returning, by the way. I think that keeps a kind of like core together that will keep that team hopefully performing in the next couple of years. Before we head to our Super Bowl matchup, I want to bring up a note from the game before and ask your opinion on this. Zay Flowers, you know, first off, love to see emotion. I think that taunting was a tough call for them. But let's get to that. Fumble out the end zone is a touchback. All of a sudden, people want to review this rule. I have a very strong opinion on this. Let me hear yours first. Is this a good rule, bad rule? Eliminate it, change it? What do you think?
I like the rule as it is. And why do I feel like we had this conversation? Maybe I had it on stream with and that might be it. But so to understand, in Canadian football, because I'm Canadian, it's actually like if it's fumbled, it's the person to knock it out of bounds. It's that team's ball. So it creates an actual live ball experience. But for the most of the field in the NFL, it's kind of like advantage offense. It's kind of nice to have one part of the field where a loose ball is advantage defense. And that's what I appreciate about it. And like, a defender can't go and knock the ball out of bounds because that is actually a penalty and puts the ball on the 1-yard line for the offense. So the defense can't go and knock it out of bounds. But if it rolls out of bounds, it's advantage defense. The one spot where fumbles go advantage defense. I'm all on board with that. I have no problem with it.
I love this rule. Yeah. Because not only do I agree that you get the defensive advantage for once, but also like protect the ball in the red zone. Right? Like, it stops you from doing what Zay Flowers did, which is get fucking greedy and try to extend the ball out of your safe zone and get it knocked out by a good, alert defender. And so when that happens, it's like, yeah, dummy, tuck it in, live to see another day, live to fight another yard, or turn it over and then make the other team go 99 yards. But to encourage behavior where you're not penalized and you need the ultimate penalty, which is turnover, touchback, shouldn't have done it. So I love that rule. I think anyone calling for its change is like my fantasy league that wants to get rid of kickers. I think you're all nuts.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. I'm like, come on, like, kickers,
come on, guys.
I just like the randomness of it. I understand that kickers are random, but it's just allow randomness. Stop trying to control everything, people.
Right.
But yeah, so
football's random that has kickers decide games or miss field goals like the Bills, right? So it's part of American football. Let's go.
Yeah, so with that, as we know, we now have a Super Bowl matchup of the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. The same matchup we literally had back in 2020. It's a weird fever dream from right before COVID hit. And we'll get in depth into that matchup next week. But let's head over to Best Bets with Bookie Bob. If there's anything you want to go over there, Bookie.
Yeah, welcome to the best corner, the end of the program, the part we know you're all waiting for, and hopefully sponsoring sooner than later. But we had probably later, yeah. Your boy over here, he broke even on his bets. Actually, lost just a little bit of money. He managed to pick his winners, but had these wonderful player parlays, and then happened to pick two idiotic total over rushing and receiving yards for CMC and Gibbs, both of which are on different tickets that sunk all the other correct picks that I made. So I'm glad that Uncle Bob is ending the season as he did all year long, which is awfully at gambling. That being said, Drew, I think we have a more important question to ask you. For those that have been here all season long, we placed some preseason bets. Your Super Bowl pick was the San Francisco/Santa Clara 49ers. Are you hedging?
Good chance. You'll have to tune in next week to know, but I think based on everything I've said this episode, you should know my thoughts, being that when Patrick Mahomes is on, you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. That's all I gotta say.
Nothing else to say. That's it for the corner. That's because in next week's Super Bowl preview, we will be doing an extended Best Bets with Bookie Bob, where we take a look once again at our season bets. We'll see our standings, money made, or in my case, money lost, and take a look at some fun prop bets and things of that nature. So please do tune in next week for that fun preview podcast of the Super Bowl rematch of the Niners and Chiefs, which they need. I don't like the color scheme. I wish one of them would rock an alternative jersey, just because all those reds and things. We didn't talk about it, but we proved the theory of the Super Bowl coloring wrong. Hey, this is true, and we'll get into that perhaps next week with some of the more fun.
But that's it. Yep, that's it for this episode of the Fourth and Goal podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. We will see you all next week for our Super Bowl preview. You can catch us at the Super Bowl at Fourth and Goal 101 on Twitch, as well as for the Pro Bowl this coming weekend. But with that, we will see you all later. Have a great night.